And it's an interesting thing people don't quite understand because, I mean, your common citizen might say, well, I mean, if you're one of our elected leaders, you should know what you want to say in any given speech. And the truth is, there's a bit of a balance because you are being kind of like herded from event to event. And look,
Right.
you do mostly know what you want to say.
Sure.
And if you don't, you're right. You shouldn't be in politics. Now, there are a lot of people who really don't know what they should say.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so what do they sound like? They sound like robots spewing out your latest
Right.
talking points and
Right.
kind of sound
Well,
bites.
so let
But
me ask you, how do you do it? They say, Congressman, 5 o'clock tonight, you've got a full day of meetings, you've got a committee meeting, 5 o'clock tonight, you're speaking to such and such a group. Have you got a kid on your staff who will pull together notes for you? Or do you extemporize every single time? I bet you at least want information on the group you're speaking to, right?
of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, especially with these like specific groups. So, you said National Manufacturers Association. So you've got to have some facts in there. But I also try to avoid like just telling them stuff about their industry
Right.
because that's usually what your common staffer will do. And so you have to like wake them up out of that. You'd be like, look. I don't want to go there and just tell them stuff about themselves that they already know. Like that sounds really boring if you're in their seat. They want to hear something different associated with what they do, and so
Right.
that's a bit more of a challenge. And I think we've got a decent process for it. I wouldn't say I have a speechwriter.
Hmm.
Most congressmen don't have a quote unquote speechwriter, but I suppose their press person, their comms person, is in charge of writing speeches. But it's nothing like in the White House, of course, where you probably have multitude of speechwriters for different kinds of events too, because even one speechwriter couldn't do all of the comments for every single event, and then that the executive or the congressman, the president, the vice president has to then trust too that do they if I don't go over this speech, can I at least will it be readable when I read it?
Right.
That's a whole other question and probably takes
Yeah.
a great degree more of trust. And so I'm not really giving you a great answer on many speeches, especially I write them myself. If it's an important speech, I'm writing it myself. Um, you
I
know,
hope the people of the Texas 2nd Congressional District know how lucky they are. A congressman who can write.
yeah,
There are not that many. I mean, and I sound facetious. I don't really mean to sound as facetious as I do. Writing is hard, and I've become convinced over a long lifetime of it now that writing is not only is it hard, but it's still essential. It is the way we figure out what we really think,
hmm
which is one reason I always felt that Ronald Reagan could prove so compelling, because all his life he read widely and wrote constantly.
hmm
George Bush was a good writer. It was clear we were there to save them time, not
hmm
because they couldn't do the job themselves. So
yeah.
that's don't you find though that when if your staff clears some time for you and you actually do the writing, it's hard to describe, but you feel as though you're coming to positions in a more solid way
Oh
than you
yeah.
could, right? Than you could by
Oh
any
yeah.
other means.
Yeah. It's like the Jordan Peterson line. You can't distinguish writing from thinking. It's the
Yes,
it's
that's exactly it.
it's
That's
probably
it.
the clearest form of thinking.
Yes, yes, exactly,
Is to write it
exactly.
down. I certainly don't think I write enough, but I try to. I'm trying to get back into op-eds. I used to write op-eds constantly. Um, but yeah, I mean, you should write your own speeches because it's noticeable when staff writes it. Like there is no like staff writing class, but it sure seems to me like there is because everybody seems to have sort of the same ways of saying things, and
So
it's
that
obvious when somebody else is writing it.